Ola coming to you live from my Empire Pro studios. And I think we should go live on Instagram too. What do you think? Now, if you're not following me on Instagram, my Instagram handle is italksb. If you haven't downloaded this book, it's smartrealestateWholesaling.com. That's where you go to grab a free copy of this PDF. It's also available in Amazon, in Kindle, audio, and book like that. So, this video right here, I'm going to share a lot of tips, okay? And every time I see something that makes sense to you, it's basically another opportunity. Sorry if I'm looking on the side, I'm trying to set up Instagram Live, all right? It's just another opportunity for you to give me a thumbs up, okay? Now, throughout this session, you will have one chance to give me a thumbs up one time. Just make sure it stays lit blue because that helps me spread the message. And thank you very much for helping me build the platform. Okay. So on this episode, we're talking about how I found $90,000 in equity in 3 different steps. Okay. And that's what we're going to cover here today. How I found $90,000 in equity in 3 different steps. This is part of our wholesale real estate tips. Okay. And I see a few people joining us here on Instagram. I need to just put this back. All right. Just want to do a quick wave. All right. So how I found $90,000 in equity. But honestly, it's not about the $90,000. It's about finding equity. Okay. What is wholesale real estate? In case you're brand new to do all of this, right? It's simply the art and the science of finding deeply discounted properties, but then turning them for profit. Now, the hardest part about all of that is finding them in the first place, okay? And today I'm going to be going through an extensive training on how exactly I do that. Now, what I want to do over the next few minutes is to share with you what those steps are. And basically, you can, after that, decide if you want to see the training, look over my shoulder, and watch me do it in actuality, okay? So now, with that being said, I'm actually going to get this started really quickly because my premium members will be able to see my screen once I get started with that. Okay. But for now, let me just show you what it's about. I'm going to give you the full details. I don't hide anything. The only thing I can't do on this free session, by the way, I don't get paid for what I'm doing right now. Okay. But I get to build a brand, that's for sure. But also, more importantly, you get to walk away with exactly how we do these things. Okay. All right. So, how do I find $90,000 in equity? Now, you can do this anywhere in the world, anywhere where people pay for shelter, anywhere people pay for a house, anywhere people pay a certain amount of dollars to build a house or to acquire a real estate property. You can do this anywhere in the world. The terminologies may be a little bit different depending on what state you live in, depending on what country you live in. The terminologies may be different, but that's the least part of the game. You can learn that. You can go to your local real estate investor and learn what the lingos are, right? But once you understand the concept, then you can basically turn around and use these ideas I'm about to share with you. You can use that to make a lot of profit. I got started in the game back in 2005. I stumbled completely into it. I made a lot of mistakes. As a matter of fact, in 2008, the market crashed with my business. Everything got wiped out, and basically had to start from scratch. But the reality of learning this kind of skill set is that you are really never truly starting from scratch, because unless you take my brain away, you can't take my brain and the experience that I have away. And that's one of the beauties about doing this kind of thing, because you can basically learn this stuff, okay, and you can make multiple mistakes. You're gonna have multiple different second chances, and because you will make mistakes, and some of them are not necessarily in your control. You're not in control of how many times you make mistake. The only thing you're in control of is how many mistakes you make, how many times you expose yourself to make more mistakes, so you can build that that so you can build that what do you call it, that type of equity, okay, knowledge equity, basically, especially when it comes to real estate. Okay, so that's what I want to share with you today. The first step in all of that, okay, at the end of the day, really, what's the end goal? The end goal is to find somebody looking to sell me their property at a deep discount. What do I consider a deep discount? A deep discount is anything 75% or below of the actual value of the property. Okay? But we even take it a little step further to make it a little bit easier. Not just the actual value of the property, but actually after repair. So the property may be ugly, may need some work. We're not really worried about the present value of the property. We're worried, we care about the potential of the property, but the potential value of the property after it has been repaired or after it has been rehabbed. That's why I will call it after rehab value or after repair value. Okay, so that's what we focus on. Okay, the number one number that you need to know before you can use this or leverage this is to know the after rehab or after repair value of a property. Okay, if it's a land, what would the land be worth after they put a property on top of it, after they put an improvement? That's the real estate lingo, right? After they actually build an actual house on top of this land, what is it worth? So, right, the next number that we care about is how much is it going to cost to do that, right? And obviously, we want those two numbers to consolidate before we can call it profit, before we can call it projected potential gross profit, right? There are quite a few different costs that go into acquiring a property and selling a property. We could start from realty transfer taxes, right? So for every city you live in a developed country, there are going to be costs to selling a property. There are also costs to buying a property, right? I think there's a lot fewer costs to selling a property, but generally you will have to pay some kind of taxes for selling or transferring the deed of a property to another person, right? A few other things, maybe attorney, if you have an attorney, if you're using title company, a few other things you may have to pay for, but generally you have to pay for any money you may owe against the property. So the property is a secured asset, okay? Like the only thing secure in this life as an asset is a property, okay, like a real estate property, because it's on land. You cannot take it and run away because actually the value of real estate is attached to the actual location, okay. So that's something we need to note. What is the end goal? The end goal is to find a property that's deeply discounted with respect to the after rehab value, after repair value, some people call it, right? So I heard somebody the other day called it adjusted retail value. Uh, Whatever. But the best way, the self-explanatory way is either after rehab value or after repair value, and we call that the ARV, right? So I wanted to cover those little fundamentals before we dive into everything else. You need to know what the end goal is. We need to find a deeply discounted properties. So if it's 90,000, so for example, if you were able to find a property that it's worth $300,000 after rehab value, right? But somebody is willing to sell it for $210,000. That will be 300,000 minus $210,000, and that's $90,000 in equity. Okay, that's what we mean by $90,000 equity. And if you're able to find something like that all day long, then you win the game of wholesale real estate. Okay, now I've got to take that a little step further. Okay, it's not just about the $90,000. Okay, if you found $1 million property, right, and you found somebody willing to sell it for $910,000, that is still $90,000 equity, but it's not worth anything because with respect to the after repair value, which is $1 million, it's very low in percentage. Okay, so if you do that math, that's like 0.09 of $1 million. That's $90,000 equity, and that's nothing. There's no room to play, considering that it cost $1 million to even own this property after rehab, right? So $90,000 equity is basically worth almost nothing in that sense. So in business and entrepreneurship in general, we don't look at linear numbers. We look at percentages. You're in a better position when you look at percentages. There are certain markets where percentages don't matter as much. So for example, a lot of people in Phoenix will tell you like, listen, we'll go up to, if we can find a property discounted at 85%, it's still a lot of money, right? And some people will tell you $1 million, $90,000 equity, I could still make $10,000 and keep it moving. That's very true. But just if everything else were equal, in general, we pay attention to percentages more. And what you're looking for is 25% or more of the actual after repair value of the property. So if it's $1 million, you're looking for a property that's worth $1 million, but somebody is looking to sell it for $750,000. So that's $250,000 of space that you can work with. So if it costs you $100,000 to fix it, right, to put it back on the market, you can, that will be, your cost will be $750 plus $100,000, and now you can, that was $850,000. You can make $150,000 in profit, okay, in gross profit, because there may be other costs attached to the actual transaction, right? Like closing costs, holding costs. How long does it cost you to hold on to $1 million property in any given month? That's numbers that you have to pay attention to. If you don't pay attention to such numbers, you will basically waste time, okay? All right, so that's very, very important. So the end goal and the last goal, and with respect to what, you know, you will see me say that a lot. With respect to what, you know, sometimes people say $20,000 is too much of repair. Then my question is, with respect to what? What do you mean? $20,000 worth of work on $1 million home is nothing. You're not going to touch, like, that's like the countertop, right? A $20 million apartment in New York City, if you put $20,000 into the kitchen, there's nothing. You know, nobody's going to purchase it from you, because the quality of work you're putting into that multi-million dollar apartment is not, you know, it's not worth it. So it's always with respect to what, you know. If you throw a blank question at me, I'm always going to ask you with respect to what. Okay, so that's something that you should pay attention to. So the goal here is to find a deeply discounted property with respect to what is actually worth after. So if it's $1 million, I'm looking for a property $750,000 or lower. Can I still make it work if it's $800,000? Absolutely, but that's, again, that's ideal. So you need to know what the ideal is so you can play around it. Okay, if you're going to break any rule, you need to know what the rule is. Okay, we break rules all the time. Okay, not law, but rules, right? People create rules all the time, and we break those rules all the time. But it's a very dangerous thing. Sorry about that, Instagram. It's a very dangerous thing to be breaking a rule that you don't know, that you don't even know what it is in the first place, right? Or you don't have any rules at all, you know, so you're just breaking everything. You're basically going to end up losing money in that sense, okay? So now let's reverse engineer what I just shared with you back to the topic of the day, which is the 3 steps that I'm actually you're going to be able to look over my shoulder if you're a premium member here. If you're not a premium member, you can join us at 3pillarsystem.com. It's only $10 per month, okay? But you'll be able to look over my shoulder inside after later on today, okay? At least within the next 24 hours on this concept, exactly how I use this concept, okay? So and exactly how I find equity, okay? Now, when I say equity, please remember it's with respect to the actual after repair value of the property. So I don't want you to send me a deal tomorrow and then it has $10,000 worth of equity, but the property is worth $500,000. That's not equity. That's not room to play with, okay? We need 25%. We think in percentages, okay? So what is 25% of $500,000? That would be, what, 75 or something like $125,000. We need that to be discounted at least by $125,000. That brings us down to what? $375,000. And then if there's any kind of repair that's needed on the work, we need to deduct the estimated repair or rehab cost from that as well. And that's how you create profit, okay? So how do I find such properties all day long? First of all, it's not about the properties, okay? In order to find such properties, thank you for that like. Please don't forget to give me likes. Thank you if you're watching me and you give me a like. Please don't forget to give me likes on this video if I said anything that made any sense. Thank you, I appreciate that. Now, it's not about properties. It's about the people that own the properties. It's about the people that are in control of the properties, okay? This is a relationship-based business like any other business, okay? If you don't have a relationship with the prospect, the people you're dealing with, you basically don't have a deal. You could collect addresses all day long. You need to find these people's contact information and build some kind of relationship with them, some kind of rapport you have to build with them. Okay. But how do we get to these people first? Okay. Before we talk about building rapport with them, how do we get to them first, right? How do we even get their contact information? How do we get them on the phone? How do we get them to respond to us? You have two choices there. You can either call them or you can get them calling you. Okay. Now, to get them to call you, you have to be exposed somehow, some way to them. Whatever your offer, you got to have an offer, right? And that offer has to be exposed to them some type of way. Okay. One of the ways, the way I started in the business is I sent letters. Okay. I sent letters to these people and they responded because my phone number is on the letter. They called me and said, I received your letter. I'm ready to sell my house. It's worth nothing and I want to sell it for nothing. Okay. That's literally what it was. Okay. Back in 2005, people were purchasing properties, way too much money spent on the property, and now they're stuck. They can't pay the mortgage loan. They can't pay it back. So you got to send them letters. So that's one way. Okay. I don't encourage sending letters if you're starting, okay? If you're starting for the first time and you don't have a big budget like most people, I don't encourage sending letters or postcards because that can get very, very costly, even though that's just marketing, right? What I recommend is to use a more proactive method to reach out to them, which is use the phone, okay? When I say phone, I don't mean physically using these phones to call them, okay? I'm talking about calling them. Okay, but still using automation. Okay, so that's automation. So inside of this book, I cover 3 pillars here called the 3 pillars. Yeah, that's the name 3 pillar system, where you can find us 3pillarsystem.com. If you're not a premium member, it's just $10 a month. Right now, the join fee is 0, so that's waived for now. Okay, so inside of there's 3 pillars. The first pillar is basically value, right? The second pillar is automation, and the third pillar is people. So you would think the third pillar, P, should be properties, but it's not. It's actually people, because you get to the property by building relationship with the people, okay? But the property address gets you to the people. So it's kind of like they both work hand in hand. So with that being said, the first step to finding $90,000 worth of equity or more or less, just anything that's profitable, right? Depending on with respect to what, right? The first step is to find distressed properties, okay? Now, remember, it's not about the properties, but the properties is what's basically going to point you to the people behind the properties, okay? Because if you find properties like this, if you get out on your street right now, right, and there's tons of properties on your street, they can't turn to money unless you link with the person, the people in control or in ownership of the property. So it's about the people ultimately, but the way you get to the people is first of all by finding distressed properties. And what are distressed properties? Distressed properties are basically properties that are not performing, okay? So an example would be a tired landlord, right? A tired landlord is a person that bought a house, bought a dream rental house. They really thought they were going to become a millionaire, but life happened, and for some reason they can't keep up. They're spending a whole lot more money on the property than the money that's coming in. The idea was to make rental income, but now they're spending money on taxes, on utility, maintenance, right? They're spending money on insurance. They're spending money on servicing the loan, because most people will take a mortgage to buy such property and servicing the loan. So the numbers are not adding up. And now and in addition to that, the tenants are not behaving, and they've had to kick out tenants because they haven't paid in 3 months. Meanwhile, the mortgage and all the other bills they keep sending those bills. Meanwhile, the tenant has not been paying for 3 months. So they've had to go to eviction court and to be trying to kick people out, because it's ultimately illegal you can't drive them out of the house by yourself. That would be illegal. So the law actually favors the tenant more than it favors the landlords, right? And as you can imagine, that's a very, very frustrating position to be in, right? You own the property, you paid for it, you service the loans, you pay for servicing the loan, you pay for maintenance, you pay for property manager if you're doing it the right way, right? If you're not paying for property manager, basically what you have is an overglorified job of being a landlord, and you're not an investor, right? and also you're not really getting any kind of returns. So such people own properties, and now they are tired landlords, and you can offer them to buy their property from them. Okay, as long as they're willing to sell it to you. So finding such properties, you can simply go to your county house in your local area and pull up all the list of evictions. Okay, all the properties that has eviction listed with them, you can put is public records. Okay, so that's one. You can do pre-foreclosures the same way. Pre-foreclosures are people that have gone through possibly what I just described, but now they're owing the mortgage company money. They haven't paid in 3 months. They haven't paid their mortgage in 3 months. They end up on a list at the county, right? And that county has a list of what you call a lease pending. If it's in New Jersey, they may have a different name for them in different states, but essentially it's pre-foreclosure. It's basically the banks. It's a threat from the bank, like, listen, we're about to take away the property from you if you don't pay. Okay, so that kind of list is available. You pull that list, and then that's the first step: finding distressed properties. The list is available at the county house, but there are services on the internet. Okay, for example, foreclosures.com, rotitrack.com, theredx.com. There's a ton of them, foreclosure listings. They will give you the list for less than $50 a month just to have access to such list, right? So if you're listening to me, please, if I say anything that makes sense, please, I'm doing this for free, so please make sure you give me a thumbs up at least. I really appreciate it. Help me spread the word a little bit more, okay? All right, so you finding that list of properties is the first step. What is the next step? You're going to see me do that here later, okay? So there are multiple other different types of lists. There's about 7 of them, and I have another video that I did about 8 ways to find properties or something like that, right? And that video is on this YouTube channel. If you're not on my YouTube channel, it's Olatalks at Abitogun.com. Olatalks Abitogun. Just go search that on YouTube. You'll find my YouTube channel, and I covered that in details, right? And basically, the way that works is this: you have, I said, you have pre-foreclosure eviction list. You have vacant properties. Remember, it's underperforming assets. Okay, a vacant property. If you live in a developed country, I don't know about third world country, maybe a little bit different. If you live in a developed country, owning a property and not putting it to work automatically put you at a loss. You might as well not own a property because you're basically getting into debt even more and more because you have to pay taxes in such developed property taxes in developed countries, right? So basically, the idea of owning a property is to make sure that the money coming in from the property is way more than the money going out on the property. That's what you call home or property ownership, right? That's why a mortgage is not a big deal, right? You have a mortgage, it's not really a big deal to have a mortgage because as long as the money coming in is worth more than the money that's going out. Now, for you, if you live in one of the units in the property, you can offset because you have to pay rent anyway. As an adult in a developed country, you have to pay for a roof over your head. So that may help you offset a little bit on your numbers, but that's the idea of ownership, okay? So mortgage is not a big deal as long as the income is more than the outgoing money, right? All right, good. So again, you have absentees, owners. Many people, it could be landlords, tired landlords. That's how you find. That's another way to find tired landlords. Vacant properties, pre-foreclosures. There's also free and clear listing. Basically, people that own properties that don't owe any mortgage on it. They may just be old and 90 years old. They don't really want to have to worry about calling somebody to go check out the property any longer. They are willing to sell you the property at a deep discount because you are basically going to be offering them all cash, right? And then you're able to put the work in the property, put the house back on the market, and making a performing asset. And then for doing that work, you make profit from that. Does that make sense? All right, so that's basically how that works. Let me see here. Let's make sure. Okay. All right. So the next step after you find a list of properties like this, again, the 7 different types of properties. I have another video on that. But the next step after you collect this list, I'm going to be doing this later, and I'm going to be recording it right after this, and it's going to be within the next 24 hours of being our premium members. We already have tons of videos there to help you get through this, where I share everything I'm doing in my business, basically, how I'm training people, how to talk to people and stuff like that. The next step is to find the contact information of the property owners, okay? So in between those steps, it could be a couple of steps. many steps, okay? But the idea of the next step really is to find the contact information of these people, okay? The contact information, if it's a mailing address, usually will come with the property information on the tax records. And if you're buoyant enough, if you have a decent budget, I'm talking $1,000 or more per month, okay, that you can spend on mailing postcards. Then you can do this business profitably simply by mailing the postcard and expecting calls to come back to your phone for people ready to sell. That's the next. That's why the next step is to find the contact information. So what's the first step? The first step is to find distressed properties. Okay, and I described to you what distressed means. It simply means an underperforming asset, an underperforming property. The next step is to find the contact information of the owners of the property. Okay, because what matters are the people, the relationship you build with the people, the connection with the people that control or own the property. Doesn't have to own the property. That's one of the mistakes I see a lot of investors making. They're always asking a question like, do you own the property? It doesn't matter who owns the property. It's who controls the property. The only time it matters who owns the property is when you're at the closing table. You need the person that legally owns the property to sign the closing papers. Okay, you need them to also sign the contract. But the truth of the matter is control, because people can own just a power of attorney and be able to control a property and close the property as well too. So that question is usually unless you are prospecting, that's only when it matters. If you're not prospecting, if you're looking for a deal, you got to get to who's controlling the property is really the real question here. Please, if I say anything that makes any sense, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I appreciate it. This is how I spread the word more. And any help you can help me to build this channel will be really, really, truly appreciated. All right. Thank you. So that's the next step. Find the contact information and everything that will help you get to the contact information. It could be a mailing address or it could be a phone number. The property address is often different from the from the mailing address, especially for, again, out of state absentee owners. Their mailing address is not the same as the property address. So if you send some of your mail to your property address, you see them coming back to you as a return address, as the wrong address, because the person that owned the property does not live in the property. Okay? The person that owned the property does not live in the property. So basically, you don't want to just collect property address and be mailing the address. You want to make sure it's the mailing address. And for every tax record of any property in a developed country, United States specifically, there are mailing addresses attached to them. Okay. Now, to find mailing address or the owner, a few steps. Again, you may find that the legal owner of a property is a legal entity like an LLC or limited liability company, right? And in that case, now you have to not just keep a name. Now you're not just looking for phone number. You have to first of all find who owns the LLC, and then you now use the person who owns the LLC to find the phone number. These are the steps. Okay, but remember all of this in that one single step of finding the contact information. Okay, finding the contact information. So again, with the property tax records, you see quite a few information, including taxes, right? The property, how much is the property taxes on the house? You're going to need that information to determine if this can be a profitable deal or not. Again, we'll cover all of that details in other videos, okay? But the idea here is on this particular information, you're looking for the owner, the legal owner of the property. It could be a person, individual person's name. It could be an LLC name. If it's an individual name, that name, you have to find the phone number. And we call that finding the contact information. The lingo in the industry is to skip trace that, okay? The skip trace, there's a lot of skip tracing companies out there. There's needtoskip.com. There is REIskip, right, .com. You could just Google skip trace a phone number, and there's tons of them out there. And there's dealmachine.com, which is another platform that a lot of people are promoting right now. But if you want to know the ones that I recommend personally and the step I recommend, we cover that step by step in the premium membership, 3pillarsystem.com. Okay. All right. So let's keep going here. What is the third step? Let me cover the third step right now because I need to round up so I can go start the premium training. Okay. The third and the final step is to contact these people. Okay, so you either have a phone number or you have multiple phone numbers, or you have a mailing and a property address. Okay, the mailing address is priority over the property address because that's the contact. For all you care, they may not want to sell that particular property. They may have other properties that they want to sell. That's why I told you that finding deals, finding equity, right, that you can pay pennies on the dollar for, right? It's not about the properties, it's about the people. Okay, it's about giving offer to human beings, right? Listen, I buy houses, I pay all cash. Oh, you don't have the cash? Don't worry. There are people that have all the cash in all of our network. Just contact me once you find a deal. We'll find the person that has the cash because they will pay you handsomely for finding that deal, for finding that equity. Does that make sense? That's how you're able to make $10, $20, $30,000 because you're able to help somebody find $50,000, $60,000 worth of equity. They will happily pay you $5,000, $10,000 to do that every single day using the simple three steps I just shared with you here today. Okay, so again, you can contact them by simply picking up the phone and calling every phone numbers you find for that person. Okay, usually you will get 2 or 3 phone numbers for any particular contact. Okay, or you can send mailing and expect calls to come back. The calling them is very proactive. Okay, is the fastest way for you to get to your first deal if you've never closed a single deal before, and obviously is the very fast way to get to your next deal as well. And once you start closing deals, then you can decide to add on direct mailing. Okay, direct mailing is basically similar. It can get very expensive, but once you're closing deals, it's a little bit all of a sudden less expensive because you're closing deals. For a newbie, it can become the reason why you quit on yourself if you spend too much money up front. Get your first deal, your second deal, the fourth deal, get comfortable, stack some money in the bank before you go into direct mailing and start sending all these letters. Okay, because at that point it will be worth it. Okay, if that makes sense, please make sure you give me a thumbs up before you keep it moving. Okay, all right. Thank you. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel because I'm here. I try to be here at 12 noon every day. Okay. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Okay. So those are the 3 steps. Okay. Again, the first step is find distressed properties, find the contact information attached to them. Okay. And then contact them. Those are the 3 steps right there. If you can follow those 3 steps, right, you will find deals. Is it every contact that become a deal? If it was that easy, everyone would have found out and they'll be doing it. Your willingness to go through some numbers and find a person, find some equity is why you will get paid. It becomes a lot more easier with time. So it's a little bit of a sacrifice, just like in any other business. Okay, this is not, it's get rich quick, but it's not get rich quick, if you know what I mean. Once you get that first result, close that first deal, it's gonna feel like you got rich quick. To the people that couldn't do the first work. Okay, all of the work I'm talking about can be as less as 1 week. It can be as high as 90 days because of many different variables, including you as a variable. It depends on how consistent can you be, how diligent can you be in following a simple task. I was graduating with my master's degree in 2005. I had a lot going on. I was also taking another class on programming, so I wasn't exactly concentrated on doing this. So it took me a whole year. I purchased my first course in learning this in 2004 December. I closed my first deal in 2005 December, and then I closed a ton of deals for the next 2 years after that. So it's very simple, but depending on your background, depending on where you're coming from, your diligence level, your consistency level, your coachability, do you have the ability to follow simple steps? Are you decisive? Or are you a good decision maker? If you have a problem deciding if you need to spend $10 per month to learn this craft, you're probably going to have a serious problem later on. Okay, so you have to be willing to be able to make a quick decision based off of limited information. If I sit down here, I can tell you, which there are tons of videos inside of our premium membership. But if you need me to overpound that and sell you hard on that, that means you have a problem in decision making. One of the number 1 skills as an entrepreneur, which is what you're going to be doing this, right, is to be able to decide very quickly, with limited information, because you will never have all the information. As long as you're not experiencing, you will always have limited information. Even if you go to college, right, you go to university, to a regular conventional school, you still have limited information. Everyone has limited information. It's about taking action on limited information because your foresight can see beyond, right? It's about vision, right? You got to be able to see beyond just what you have in front of you right now. You got to be able to look in my eyes and say, no, this guy is honest, I can feel him. He knows what he's talking about. Or you could say, no, I need him to give me his W-2s before I can decide. Of course, that would be crazy, but you'll be shocked, how far some people take it. But that's the idea there. Again, first step, find distressed properties. They're everywhere. If you see an overgrown weed, that's a distressed property. If you see a property somebody is trying to sell for sale by owner, that's a distressed property. Okay, it doesn't matter how much they're asking for. You only sell things that are not valuable to you any longer. That's why in the stock market it's the same thing. You only sell things that are not valuable to you anymore. If it's valuable to you, you won't be selling it. Okay, you're trying to pull some value. That's why you're selling it. Okay, if the ownership of it is valuable, you won't have to do any of that. Okay, does that make sense? So those are the 3 steps. Hopefully that was very helpful for you. You can come inside and look over my shoulder. In the next 24 hours, the training about to record right after this is going to be available inside of the premium membership with the other tons of training that I already have there, including the step-by-step how to get started, right? It's called 3pillarsystem.com. If you want to join, it's only $10 per month. For now, there's a joining fee about $199 that we've waived for now to come inside at all, but it's $10 every month. Don't forget to grab the book. Smart Real Estate Wholesaling.com is free, but if you want the paper, it's available on Amazon, Kindle, Audio, it's Kindle, or Audible.com as well too. If you're signed up for Audible for the first time, you can get it for free on the with that free trial. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click like and turn on the notifications so you're notified every time I'm here. You can hang out with me live. If you have any questions, use the comment area below. You can ask any questions. If you have any advice, any opinion, any experience, anything you want to share with us, share it below in the comment box below. I'll be right here tomorrow to give you another fast, quick tip on how to succeed in wholesale real estate. It's what I do every day. So right now I'm going inside to do some work, and you can come inside and look over my shoulder. If you come inside, it's just $10 per month. Don't forget to grab the book, subscribe, click like, please give me likes. The minimum thing you can do for me here is give me a like, okay, so that YouTube can help me spread the word a little bit more. Thank you so much. Hopefully you've been enlightened and educated. I'll see you on the next one, and peace.